Microsoft's going to be in the news next week. I know we mentioned them. Steve Kovach, they have their big AI event, speaking of, on Monday. And they need to deliver because they need to keep up.
Yeah, and they're the perceived leader. And next week, that's their Microsoft Build Developers Conference after following Google this week. Expecting to hear the latest AI updates from the leader in AI. And all the news is happening Monday and Tuesday. A big part of that is Copilot. That's, of course, the marquee AI assistant. Microsoft has been making a huge push to sell it to businesses this year. It changed PC keyboards to that Copilot button. It's been advertising on the courts of the NBA playoffs. It hired a new CEO to run Microsoft AI, focusing mostly on Copilot. But look, it's not cheap, $30 per user per month, like we've been saying. And for now, investors really have little clarity into how well it's selling, despite all that hype from Microsoft. So I spent some time catching up with CTOs and other execs who decide to buy tools like Copilot to see how it's being received. And the answers were pretty mixed. No one I spoke to is ready to deploy Copilot widely across their company. They're mostly just testing it with a couple hundred employees at a time. They say, bottom line, it's just too expensive while the benefits are unclear. One CTO of a large company told me Copilot would have to be 80% cheaper for them to consider deploying it to thousands of their employees. But it's not all bad. Almost everyone I said love how Copilot works with video meetings in the Teams app. It keeps that transcript handy so it can summarize everything that happened. Also says it's useful for catching up on those piles of missed emails. But one common problem, those prompts. That's the questions you ask an AI assistant like Copilot to get what you want. Many just don't know what to ask to get the most out of Copilot. It requires some training. And this was also interesting. Instead of Copilot, some of these companies are making their own custom AI assistants using AI tools from Facebook's and others. That's just a much cheaper option and more targeted and niche. And Microsoft has given some nuggets on Copilot performance, though. Recently announced Coca-Cola is testing Copilot internally, and IT company Cognizant actually bought 25,000 Copilot seats for its employees. Do the math there, see how much Microsoft is making. And one thing everyone agreed on, this goes to what you guys were just talking about, tools like Copilot are going to improve and eventually become another tool in modern work life, just like email is today. This isn't some dreamy fad like the metaverse, and next week, we're expecting to get the latest updates here, along with a slew of other AI announcements. The number one thing customers of Copilot, or potential customers, are hoping for, cheaper pricing options, Scott.
Well, I guess when look, when you have first mover advantage, so to speak, you get to charge a premium. Yeah. And then we see how everything sort of shakes out. Steve, thanks. Steve Kovach. We'll look for you, obviously, covering this throughout the day, looking at next week. Jason Snipe, how about this Microsoft?
Yeah, so, I mean, you mentioned it, Scott. I mean, first mover advantage. And I think it's been quiet around their story lately. I think Google and Meta and Amazon have kind of taken the lead in terms of just where the conversation around the market is going. But I think a lot of these new technologies, they're always expensive at the start. I mean, the focus is going to be on productivity. And when productivity increases, I think then you'll start to see pricing come down on the enterprise level, on the consumer level. And I think it will be immersive for most folks. To Jenny's point in terms of AI and how revolutionary this is and how productive this could be for all our businesses and enterprise, I think that's where Microsoft sits, and I think they'll continue to benefit from that story.
Kev, you've owned this thing for a decade?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we expect a lot out of them. It's going to be hit and miss. There's going to be problems in terms of pricing. Clearly, that's a big number. But this is a stock that's going to bring Surface Pros. They're going to bring the hardware. You're putting this button on there. They're still trying to make Explorer work from an AI perspective. But I believe strongly in Copilot. They already have the infrastructure. We're already using the systems. And pricing's something that they'll be able to navigate over time.
And by the way, it's not just, it's non-Mag Sev tech that's been doing well, too. I know that's the NVIDIA's, Jenny's point, we always talk about NVIDIA. It's kind of hard not to. Microsoft, too. CrowdStrike, Cybertrade, Jay, working well. CrowdStrike's up 17% in a month. Palo Alto's up 14% in a month. They report on Monday. You own it.
Yeah, so Palo Alto, if you think about what happened after the print, I mean, the stock was down around 30%. I mean, it was really about this new go-to-market strategy, and the market didn't like that. Obviously, they cut the billings guide by about $600 million. So that was a lot about the story. But again, I think as it relates to cybersecurity, we keep hearing about all these breaches on data. Unfortunately, that story hasn't changed whatsoever. It's only gotten more steam over the last couple quarters. So I expect to see a billings recovery, and I expect to see a little bit more momentum going forward here.